Ryan's Burn Barrel of the Apocalypse.
Merry Christmas Eve to you, Scott McComb from Heartland Bank.
Well, thank you.
And
Good
welcome,
to see you.
welcome to the Burn Barrel of the Apocalypse. I made the coffee, the old campfire coffee. Just boil some river water, throw a handful of coffee grounds in there, and you brought the creamer. So thank you.
I did. Courtesy of Middle West Spirits.
Oh, what? You didn't tell me that.
Little shout out, to those guys over there, Ryan Lang and the group. They made some bourbon cream this year, and so I bought a couple of cases of that to hand out, and just as holiday cheer.
Well, that's
I'm joining you with some bourbon cream this morning, in full disclosure. So if things get really out of hand, then you're going to know why.
It's delicious. Well, it's Christmas Eve. I mean,
that's right. Yeah.
We need it. We can't get quite close enough to the fire, so this will work just fine. Well, that's an example of a great local company that is, despite the way things are, growing, and I keep seeing new flavors, so to speak, like the one you mentioned, out and about. So,
that's right.
Do you work with them?
We do, yeah. Ryan, actually, it's a great story, and this is kind of, I don't know, the way that things work, right? I mean, you meet people just in your walks of life, right? So a good friend of mine, Bob and Gail invited Amy and I one evening to go to a bourbon tasting thing at Middle West Spirits. Never heard of them, anything else. We go down there, and there's probably 12, 15 people in the room, and we had I listened to Ryan talk about how they make, how they distill spirits and all the business and everything else. And I said to myself, man, this guy's going to be successful. He knows his stuff. He's a third, fourth generation master distiller. I said, this is going to be successful. So when everything's done, I just handed him my business card. I said, hey, if you need a good bank, let me know. And I'd love to work with you. And okay, great. We just went on about our evening. Well, about 6 months later, the phone rings. It's Ryan Lang with Middle West Spirits and says, hey, you said you gave me your business card, said if I need a bank, give a call. And so he did. And yeah, we worked with them. And they have that was when they had just one still. Okay, now they have a giant still. They have three stills, I think, now. And they actually produce enough alcohol. It actually comes out in almost like a fire hose. They can fill a barrel in 23 seconds. 23 seconds. That's a lot of booze.
Yeah.
So they're right here in Columbus. They've got barrels of stuff aging and such and so forth. And so now they've become really one of the bigger wholesale producers in the United States.
So that's got to be a dream of a kid from Grove City to one day partner with a distiller to figure out what still are you going to buy? Let me try to get my head around this. And you get to finance a big still. That's kind of cool.
We were the first bank actually in America to get the SBA, the Small Business Administration, to finance alcohol. They had never done it before. And they didn't really understand. They're like, what do you mean finance alcohol, inventory? And I'm like, yeah, inventory of alcohol. Well, tell me about that. Okay, well, you make a barrel of whiskey, and it has to age, right? It has to age 2 or 3 years to even be called whiskey, and in the barrel. And, of course, vodka could come straight out. You can drink it immediately, right? But whiskey takes it's different by state. But so you take $417, I think it is, including the barrel. And when it comes out, though, it's worth like $3,600 in 2 years.
Yeah.
They're like, you mean the inventory appreciates as it ages? Yes. There's not too much inventory like that. And they're like, we're in. So we'll do it. And so it was a great story, yeah. So they financed inventory or gave a guarantee on inventory for alcohol.
So that's a good example of what you guys are doing. You're a small bank that tries to partner with unusual people like this radio station. Are we the weirdest people that you work with?
No.
No?
No. You're up there, but
are we
you're
top
not,
5?
You're not the weird. Probably top 10.
Oh, okay.
I would say, yeah, of weirdest people. I wouldn't say weird. I would just say, different. And again, I believe in the radio. I believe in independent radio, just like I believe in Middle West Spirits.
Yeah.
And so, everybody has a niche, a way that they can make a living. I was an entrepreneur before I became a banker, and I think that that really makes me think about different things. When I'm looking at a credit, I'm not really looking at whether you can pay back the loan initially. I'm looking at whether it's a good idea or whether we have a hardworking, dedicated staff or ownership. A good market, those kind of things, and is it going to work? And then I can help somebody make money. That's what bankers are supposed to do.
So the nut of it really is that as an entrepreneur in your former life, you're kind of on the other side of the desk in your mind, right? And
I was on the other side of the desk before I became a banker.
Yeah.
I was a borrower. I had a little business called PFM Alert Systems. So the PFM stand for Pure Effing Magic.
Oh.
No, really, it was Police, Fire, and Medical Alert
Okay.
System. And it was an alarm company basically, and I did that for a while. I had a locksmith business that kind of attached onto that, and then I had a cleaning business as well. So we did janitorial
Yeah.
stuff, and so each one of those businesses though taught me how to make a payroll, how to manage people, how to and you basically learn lessons by losing money, and I hope you don't lose your livelihood, at the same time. But that's what entrepreneurialism is all about: is taking risk, learning, evolving. And trying to provide goods and services that people will buy, and building relationships.
Yeah. So a company like Middle West, and obviously there's such a capital investment into that sort of business, and also you got to initially you're going to have barrels in a warehouse, and you're not going to be able to go to market, as you say, for 3 years when you start out, and to grow that kind of business. It takes a great deal of guts, because I imagine that specialized sort of equipment is A, expensive, B, very wonky and in need of lots of upkeep. If Middle West goes to one of those giant banks, do they even get into the door to talk to somebody that will take them seriously?
Well, it depends on what, how mature the business is when they walk in the door, So if it was like it was when we met with them, no. I mean, that's why we became the alternative, right? But once they start printing money, then pretty much any bank will talk to them, just a matter of whether they want to, jump into that meat grinder or not, whether it's a big bank or what have you.
Yeah, so I think that's where you've found your niche, right? I mean, it's
Right.
a big niche, but you found your niche. The opportunity for you is that the big banks aren't going to talk to people that have great ideas but need the seed capital to plant the seed and grow their idea.
Yeah, I wouldn't like capsulate it just big banks are bad type of thing, because the world needs big banks, right? I mean, so like BMW and Mercedes and Chrysler and Ford and giant companies need big banks. So, community banks couldn't do that. I just say though, it's a numbers game. So when you jump into their bucket, you're depending on how big of a fish you are, you get seen or you don't get seen, or you get attention or you don't get attention, So usually smaller startup businesses do better with community financial institutions, and especially when things get tough, So when things get tough, you want to make sure that your partner is there for you, that they are truly a partner, not just okay, well, you're not doing very well anymore, so we're gonna refer you over to this guy in special assets, and we're going to run you out of the bank. That's kind of the way things happen. And so you really need, when times get tough, it really matters who you're doing business with. And most folks don't realize that until it's too late, until they're in that pickle. So that's really the big difference. But the world needs big banks. The world needs small banks. The world needs credit unions, that stay in their box and don't try to be banks because of their tax advantage. That's a whole nother show we can do on credit unions. But there's a place for all of those financial players.
Well, this past year, I'm sure that you've learned more than you care to know about troubled times and people needing some guidance. But I imagine that it was also pretty gratifying, huh?
Well, it was. I mean, it always is to be able to help people. And frankly, if you want a career in banking, that's what it's all about. It's helping people, And so it's pretty awesome to be able to work with folks and be there for them and to help them grow their businesses and things. This wasn't nearly as bad as the Great Recession, back from 2008 to 2012. I mean, everyone was affected. Here, really, in the pandemic, I would say that probably 60% of the businesses aren't. I mean, they're affected in a way. They're affected with their people. They're affected of how they do business, changing the work from home to being in the office strategies, things of that nature, supply chain interruptions, things of that nature. But 50, 60% are probably doing okay. If you have a drive-through window, you're knocking it out of the park. Okay, if you deliver pizza or you make sandwiches or you do whatever, then you're having your best years ever. I know car buyers right now are having their best years ever. Like buyers across the street from us over in Whitehall, they had their best months ever. They've been
No
in business
kidding.
125 years.
Yeah.
During a pandemic.
Yeah. So, Scott, you grew up in Grove City. You went to Ohio State.
Ohio State.
Ohio State. I said it correctly.
The Ohio
Oh,
State
yes.
University.
So when you went there, I imagine that High Street looked a lot different than it does now, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, very much so. There were, I want to say there was 38 bars from Southburg to Northburg.
Yeah.
All the way up to, it was a lot different. Of course, the drinking age was 18,
Oh,
right? So,
yeah.
and I think they did that in my honor, frankly, because it was my class. We got to drink when we were 18, and then they progressively took it to 21, right? And that was my class.
Yeah.
So that's probably why I'm 5'8" and heavy now, because but anyway, yeah, it was a different place. Ohio State was different. Tuition was $568 a semester. If you could fog a mirror, they'd let you in. I'm a prime example. It was a much different place than it is today.
Yeah.
But I actually say, when people say, what did you do? How'd you get to be an entrepreneur? When my father, Tiny McComb, started Heartland, he encouraged me to start my own business, and that's really how I became an entrepreneur. And I was majoring in High Street at the time. That's what I tell people. And so I was really good at High Street, not so much at college, but really good at High Street. I actually got a letter from President Jennings saying that if I didn't declare a major, I was a senior, and if I didn't declare a major, they were going to have to ask me to leave the university. So I started a business and left the university.
Yeah.
But I really needed to get my college education, so I went back and graduated in 2009. So I went back at night and majored in sociology, criminology, and went straight for 2.5 years, and then walked in the stadium and got my diploma in 2009.
Good for you.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, that just sometimes you need some time to figure out who you are and what you want to do. And I think back to when I was that age. I didn't know. I knew that I loved radio from being the college radio station. But beyond that, it's like your perspective is so narrow, especially growing up in a small town like I did. I mean, I just needed some time to mature and figure things out. So I still am working on that. So you're a good example for me. I can mature and grow up and be responsible. I'm going to try harder next year.
I always, my son is a golf professional, and he was he went to school, and it took him 5 years, to graduate or whatever, but he graduated, 19 years before I did, right? And, but at the same time, I kept saying, to her, my wife, Amy, would be like, well, he needs to do this and he needs to do that. And I say, well, Amy, just, lay off of him. You let him find his way and all that. I was kind of like that when I was a kid. She's like, no, you weren't. You owned a business when you were 21. And you did this and this and this. I have to keep reminding myself of that, But, I really wouldn't take any of that back. Now that it was a hard road. I took the hard road. But you know what? I wouldn't do it over again, because it's really kind of made me who I am. It's made me respect people that don't have an education, you don't, a degree, let's say, because, you don't have to have a degree to make it in this world. My father didn't have a college degree. He had 1.5 years of college, ended up starting a bank and, being independently wealthy. But, all that said, I just have a newfound respect for all different walks of life, people that are tradesmen, and people that are entrepreneurial and just start things. You don't have to go to college and spend all that money to be successful. You just have to work hard, be honest, have integrity, and know how to win on a good team, and you're going to be good.
My brother's a great example of that. My little brother, he went into the Air Force after high school.
Well, thanks for his service.
And then he got into the medical profession and eventually ended up working for this firm, running it in New York. They consult hospitals on how to expand or build and make sure that they're within government regulations. And that can get very complicated. My brother never went to college. He runs this company, and now he has his own company. And he's got a bunch of Ivy League MBAs working for him as consultants. And he's like, I never went to college at all.
Might have student debt,
Yeah, yeah. So he just kind of chuckles,
Yeah.
And when they call him late at night from some bar in suburban Cincinnati, and he's like, "You guys need to fix this, you Ivy League MBAs. You need to go back to the hotel and because our client has a problem." And he's like shaking his head, going, "Yeah, I never went to college, but these guys went to Harvard and whatnot, and I'm smarter than all of them."
Well, I think I don't know. I don't want to throw college under the bus.
No, not at all.
In general, but it's not a necessity.
Mm-hmm.
It's really not a necessity, and you're no better than anybody else. If you got a doctorate or whatever, okay, great. That's what you chose to do with those years of your life. Doesn't in certain applied sciences, it's important. It really is, and frankly, folks to do that, that's a great achievement, and I respect those folks. It's not necessary to be successful in life.
Yeah, it just depends. There are a lot of different roads.
Yep.
We need to remember that. And you took the circuitous route from High Street, which looks so much different than when I got here in the 90s. It's amazing to me, and it's sort of like Columbus in a nutshell, where everything has changed. What are your overall impressions of where we are now compared to where we were, say, 25 years ago?
Oh, sure. Well, I tell you, Columbus is a much different place than when it was when I grew up, and even in the mid-'80s, it was still a cow town. I remember when Cameron Mitchell went and he dropped high school, almost a dropout, right? He Upper Arlington High School, went to culinary school, comes back to Columbus. My dad was a community banker here in town. He walks in my father's office and he says, "Hey, I really think that there's Columbus needs some restaurants, and I'm going to start one here in Linworth, where the original Cameron's was." He says, I need financing and everything else, and I think I can make it. And my father said, "Yeah, I think you can too. Columbus does need restaurants." And so my dad made Cameron Mitchell his very first loan.
Wow.
Yeah, back in the day. But that is just an example. I say that because it's an example of how Columbus is and how it's grown. So now we're considered this, food mecca, right? We have a very progressive society here, progressive, diverse. We have people moving here from San Francisco, from Boston, from New York, Chicago. Columbus is a really cool place to live, and I think people that live here, that grew up here, I get around the country quite a bit talking to my other community bank brethren, and I think the people that live here really sometimes take it for granted of how neat a place it is, how giving and generous it is. Like we have the Columbus Foundation. I mean, some of these other things those don't exist in these other cities. We could maybe have more performing arts, focus and that kind of stuff. But when it comes to philanthropy, healthcare, the James Cancer Hospital, for instance, it's the best cancer hospital on the planet.
Yeah.
We're curing cancer every day, right?
Nationwide
here in Columbus,
Children's,
Ohio.
world-class
Yeah,
children's
Nationwide
hospital.
Children's Hospital. All these other things. It's really a special place and has grown into a special place. And I tell you what, it's going to continue to get bigger and bigger. We were chatting before we started taping, right, about development and why you can build an apartment building and it's immediately full and such and so forth. And that's because we have significant numbers of people moving here every day, and they're moving here because of the safety that we have in our city. It's a great place to live, work, and play.
It is, and I'll tell you, when I moved here, I didn't visit before I moved here. Took the job at this radio station over the phone, and threw all my stuff in my pickup truck and drove across the country. The only thing I knew about Columbus was at 9 a.m. Pacific once a year. It was my dad and I love watching football together. And once a year, Ohio State, Michigan would be on at 9 a.m. Pacific time, and we both get up and sit on the couch and watch Woody go after Bo. And that's all I knew about Columbus, Ohio. And I came here, and Randy took me out for a week and showed me everything. Had I moved here last week and Randy would have to do the same thing, it would take like a month for him to show me everything.
Right.
There's so many more things to see and do, which we might have forgotten the last year. I'm looking forward to doing things again. What are you looking forward to the most as far as what you like to do when you have some free time, you and your wife? What do you like to do that you haven't been able to do?
I've been blessed to kind of I do what I want. I've worked hard and I'm reaping the spoils of that. I really like working with my people at Heartland Bank. We have an excellent team. We love one another. We are the Heartland family, and I love working with our clients. I generally hang out with my clients.
Yeah.
Which, and so I'm kind of working all the time, but it's not work. If you truly love what you do, then you'll never work a day in your life. And I've heard people say that before. I tell my people, look, if you make it an adventure, it's not a job. So making it an adventure. And that's kind of what I do. So when I play golf, I'm playing golf with people that I like and know. I'm a big golfer. So is my wife. So we play some golf. We have a place in Bonita Springs, Florida, that I'm getting ready to go to in a couple of days, which is great. So
why?
Because we can see that orange thing in the sky that we don't get to see in Columbus.
What's
That's
that?
the only bad thing about Columbus is December to March because of you can't see the sun.
Yeah.
But I get to do what I want. So I fish a little bit. I play golf. I love to hang out with friends and help people be successful, and that's kind of what I've done. So I need to work on Scott a little bit. I need to lose like 30 pounds. I need to work on my health. I generally am putting all those things in front of myself. So I need to maybe get a little more selfish with my time. Something I need to work on.
A New Year's resolution then.
Yeah, I tend to find those don't work very well. They're kind of
I've
burn
never been
off
big
real
on
quick.
those either. No, well, it's Christmas Eve, so let's not think about that stuff. That's kind of
Yeah.
a drag. We're hanging around the fire, having a little coffee with a little creamer, as we mentioned in it. It is Christmas Eve. I'm going to smoke a brisket in 15-degree weather tomorrow.
Nice.
I've decided that I'm not going to be persuaded to stay inside by the weather. What's the coldest weather you would consider going outside to cook meat?
Well, there's any weather. I mean,
Yeah,
cooking meat
see?
is an
We're on the-
institution, man.
We're
I mean,
on the same page.
Yeah, that's why you smoke a brisket, right? So you can stand there and tend to the fire.
Yeah.
For wink, wink, nod, nod, for all that time and have a good time. Exactly.
Yeah.
I love to do it during the holidays as well. Not only Christmas, but Memorial Day and 4th of July and such. Yeah, smoking
All right.
meat is an institution.
All right. Are you smoking meat tomorrow?
I am not actually. We're trying to eat everything in the refrigerator because we're going to be gone for a little while. So
good point.
We're we're on eat whatever's in the refrigerator. We're not buying anything more.
Well, that's-
mode.
All right. So some Johnny Marzetti then for Christmas.
Yeah, we're going to go down to Grove City where my wife's mother still lives, and going to hang out with her and tonight and for Christmas Eve tomorrow with COVID around and such. Of course, we're doing our social distancing here, and we're not doing anything spectacular. Going to just enjoy each other's company and enjoy the day. So,
What are you eating tonight?
Tonight I think we're having turkey, like a traditional turkey dinner, with gravy and mashed potatoes and stuffing. And
All right. What time?
come on by. It's going to be around 6.
I mean, we'll be safe. I'll sit on the porch.
Yeah, that's fine.
You know.
No, you don't have to sit on the porch. We got enough room. It'll be fine. Yeah, bring the crew. Everybody can come.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. So what would 12-year-old Scott be excited to receive for Christmas tomorrow?
12-year-old Scott. 12-year-old Scott would want a shotgun.
Oh, you put an eye out.
Yeah. I was an outdoors kid. I was never inside when I was a child. I was always out. We lived out in the country. If I was inside, there was something wrong.
You and me both.
Yeah, I loved being outside, camping, sleeping out under the stars, hunting, all that kind of stuff. So when I was 12, I hadn't really discovered girls yet, and I hadn't discovered alcohol or any of that kind of stuff. And so it was different, right? So I was outside most often. Either hunting or building a fire or
Good.
we had horses and stuff out on the farm, so I spent a lot of time with the animals.
I see kids in my neighborhood outside, and I just nod my head. That's good because kids need to go outside more. I got this kid in my neighborhood who rollerblades around. He looks like a hockey player. I'm like, the Jackets need to look into this kid. He's like 13, skates like the wind, and I just see him all the time. And anyway, I saw him yesterday. I was walking the dog, just skating around, blazing around. Kids need to go outside. I agree. That's what I did. I mean, we were outside all summer. Our parents didn't even know where we were. We were out in the woods.
Right. Well, I mean, it was really it would just be home before dark. You know,
Yeah.
is what our
Yeah.
parents
Get
would
out.
say, you know,
Get
"Don't-
out of the house.
Yeah, get out of here. Maybe maybe now that I reflect on it, maybe it's because my mom told me to get out of the house.
Right.
Maybe-
I can
know?
take a hint. Like,
That's right.
fine, I'll be a feral kid out with my feral friends out in the forest,
Right.
playing war or whatever we were playing out
Right.
there.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
It was a different time, that's for sure. Before
Yeah.
electronics and
Yeah.
and all that, and yeah. So it was never a dull day. We would be out doing something outside, you know.
So did you ever get the gun for Christmas?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
I was living on a farm. You know, like at 8 or 9, I was armed and driving a tractor. You know, so it's yeah. I mean, it's a different.
I was armed and
Yeah, I
driving
mean,
a
it's
tractor.
totally different. I mean, and you see people talk today about, firearms are bad and everything else. No, people are bad. It's about people. And
So you
their
weren't on your
mentality.
tractor driving around with your shotgun in the air going, yeehaw.
Yeah. I would usually have a, like a 30-30 or, it'd be like a Winchester rifle or something like that. And
I can picture it.
we'd shoot groundhogs because they'd tear up the fields, so you'd shoot those. And it was just a different time.
So did you you got the gun? Did you get anything else fun when you were a kid for Christmas, or maybe just any time that you just you remember spending a lot of time on some sort of vehicle or something that maybe was
fun
and dangerous?
I remember I got a set of golf clubs, and that one time that was my a special thing because that's when I started playing golf, and my dad was a golfer. He loved the game and such, and I just when I was I think I was 7 when I got my first set of golf clubs and started playing golf, and I became a caddy. It was a great way to make money. When you couldn't bale hay or work on somebody's farm or whatever, I got to Hickory Hills when it was a prestigious club, still is a great track, a great club, and we used to caddy and we carry bags, so I would ride my bike out there. It was 8 miles to the course, ride my bike 8 miles along state route 665 and go carry 2 bags, and make, I think we made like $20,
Yeah.
$25,
Yeah.
which is big money back,
Yeah.
in the early, the late 70s.
How much realism is in the movie Caddyshack then?
A lot,
Really?
actually.
Yeah.
Yes. There's all those things happen at those clubs and things. That's a classic movie, one of my favorites.
So funny.
Yeah, but the caddies are always kind of into all kinds of mischief and such and so forth, and that's why
Lot
they
of
keep them
wagering.
away from the population. They're off in another building, and and only until they're seen on the first tee box, and then they go back to the Caddyshack. And there's a lot of truth in that.
Is there a caddy tournament? Was there one?
Back in the day, no, there was
Okay.
not. Now we
That's
had
a
a
great
little thing
idea,
called
though.
junior golf,
Yeah.
that we played in, and an inter club where we got to play against the kids from York Country Club and from Scioto, and back then, back in that day, there wasn't all the clubs that there was today because the population of Columbus was, a lot smaller.
Were the guys that you were working for? Was there a lot of high dollar wagering going on that you observed?
I wouldn't say a ton of high dollar wagering. I mean, for the day, $20 back then was meant a little bit more, right, than it does today. So not a ton of high dollar wagering.
Okay.
I wouldn't say. The worst part though is when the guy would throw his club or whatever, and then he'd say, "Go in the pond and get my club," because he threw it, or he'd hit the ball into the bushes. And at Hickory Hills, if you hit it in the bushes during that time, they were all briars. You just didn't even go look for it. I caddied for this one guy that he was so cheap, he never wanted to lose a golf ball. And I would just kind of cringe every time. I'm like, okay, I got partnered with this guy to carry his bag because he'd make me jump into the briars to get his ball. I'd come out all scraped up, and he'd tip me, $3-4 though. So at the time it was worth it. Now a golf ball costs $3 or $4.
Yeah. No, I'm the opposite. I don't even like to look for it when it's in the long grass because at any given shot, I don't know where it's going. You ask Randy, it's terrible. I play maybe twice a year, and I'm awful. You talk about guns and other things that kids shouldn't have. I shouldn't have had golf clubs. I was dangerous with those. Just hook, slice, hook, slice, hook, slice. There's nothing you can do for me, so don't even try to fix my golf game.
The thing is, golf though is there's a lot about life that is very very congruent with the game of golf. So, we go through life. Well, golf, for instance, we go through golf and, do the game of golf, and you can be really, really bad and still really enjoy yourself.
Yeah, I've learned to enjoy myself.
And you can have all kinds of mishaps and everything else. The biggest thing is you got to remember that you're lucky enough to live in the United States of America where you can go play golf, where we buy food from a store, where we have our freedom, whether we have our freedom of speech and everything else, And so golf is one of those things that you just need to go out and enjoy being outside, enjoy being with good friends and the camaraderie that comes along with it. And the score, if you score well, that just makes it even better.
I don't even know what that's like. If I get a par once a year, I'm happy. I mean, it's terrible. But that's why they put the big pockets in the golf bag, so you can fit things in there that you need
right.
to get through it. Well, Scott, Merry Christmas to you. Here's to a happy 2021, a simpler 2021, perhaps a more predictable 2021. And, we'll be out there. Maybe I'll caddy for you sometime. Maybe I'll do that.
That'd be great.
Okay. Well, if you tip well, maybe.
I tip well. Well, it was a pleasure being with you this morning, and out here by the fire on this Christmas Eve. Looks like we're gonna have a white Christmas. Hopefully, we can celebrate the birth of our Savior.
It's going to be a cold Christmas. I know that. Well, thank you for being here, Scott. Safe travels. Send us a postcard from Florida.
We'll do it. Great.